We don't see how it can be hateful speech, but that's what they said. Who made the decision and on what basis they made the decision to issue the ticket? Someone did. The judge, evaluating that motion to dismiss, ruled in favor of the church and said, no, the city cannot dismiss this application for judicial review.
Good news in the legal proceeding involving the church Ministerios Restauración, which hosted Christian singer Sean Feucht. The Quebec Superior Court has just ruled in favor of the Montreal Church, dismissing the City of Montreal's motion to dismiss the case. For those who haven't followed this unbelievable story, last summer, Sean Feucht, a Christian worship leader who performs in many countries, came to Canada. Liberal and leftist mayors panicked and banned him from performing at venues. Sean Feucht then began looking for other options to perform. The church Ministerios Restauración in Montreal opened its door to him, but not without serious consequences. The church immediately became the target of far-left extremists. Protesters gathered outside the building.
You don't want to say why you're protesting?
No, I don't want to. I think it's clear.
And one of them managed to bypass security, entered the church, and threw 2 lit smoke bombs directly at Sean Feucht during the event. After a long investigation, we discovered that the alleged smoke bomber is Gabriel Lepage, an employee of the Department of National Defense.
J'ai quelques questions pour vous, Monsieur Lepage. Je voudrais vous demander, est-ce que c'est vous sur cette image-ci? Est-ce que vous pouvez me confirmer si c'est vous sur cette image-ci, Monsieur Lepage?
Je parle pas à Bell News, désolé.
Est-ce que vous pouvez me dire si c'est vous qui avez lancé 2 bombes fumigènes dans l'église Ministerios Restauración en juillet dernier?
Despite publicly exposing his identity, no arrests or charges have been led to this date. Meanwhile, the city of Montreal, which had tried to prevent the event from happening, issued a $2,500 fine to the church. The city claimed the worship event was essentially a concert held without the required permit, thereby violating municipal bylaws on permitted uses of buildings and public events. Olivier Séguin, the lawyer working with the Democracy Fund, is representing the church against the city of Montreal. Since Olivier is the French-speaking representative on the file, have invited his colleague Marc Joseph to join us and explain this important small victory, one that could lead to a much bigger win for religious freedom and freedom of expression.
The City of Montreal, the bylaw officers, issued a notice of infraction for what they say is an infringement of the zoning bylaw, and the amount of that ticket was $2,500. From our perspective, TDF believes this is a civil liberties violation, obviously because people across Canada have the right to free speech and a freedom of worship. Just because people are singing in a church or a mosque or a synagogue, or other place of worship doesn't mean that the government can step in and forbid that on the pretext that there's a zoning bylaw that says you can't. The City of Montreal's position is, well, this was a concert. They're going to have to prove that in court. What happened here was that a TDF lawyer in Montreal filed an application for judicial review at the Superior Court. So the initial ticket, we're disputing that, but that would normally go to the municipal court. But the TDF lawyer filed an application for judicial review at the Superior Court, so that the higher court is going to argue charter violations at that higher court. The city, in response to that application, filed a motion to dismiss that application. So what happened a few days ago is the judge, evaluating that motion to dismiss, ruled in favor of the church and said, no, the city cannot dismiss this application for judicial review. This application for judicial review will go ahead in the Superior Court, which was a preliminary victory, but a victory nonetheless.
It's even more outrageous when you see that the city is trying to dismiss this kind of case when it's an infringement of religious freedom and freedom of speech.
Yeah, it was, I mean, I'm not sure what they thought would happen. Logistically, it's not legally, it's not a bad move for the city to make, but it shows that they're fighting every step of the way on this. Instead of coming to terms with the problem here, they're going to engage in a war of attrition. We'll see. Anyways, they lost that preliminary battle, but the war continues.
So what is the next step in that specific case?
Well, the next step is for the TDF lawyer to bring this to a full hearing in front of the judge at the Quebec Superior Court. So that involves an exchange of affidavits. An affidavit is just a sworn statement by the relevant parties about what went on. And then possibly there's cross-examinations on those affidavits. And then a factum, which is a legal brief containing your arguments. And then a full hearing in court. With both sides testing the other's evidence, and then the judge will make a ruling.
Are you going to ask some people who work for the city of Montreal to come and testify?
That is an excellent question. So if you recall what happened at the time the ticket was issued, is the spokesperson for the mayor's office made a comment. The spokesperson said, "This show runs counter to the values of inclusion, solidarity, and respect that are championed in Montreal. Freedom of expression is one of our fundamental values, but hateful and discriminatory speech is not acceptable in Montreal." Now that's different than taking a position that this worship service, or what they say is a concert, infringes a zoning bylaw. That's a different argument that's saying now, the spokesperson, that this was allegedly hateful speech. We don't see how it can be hateful speech, but that's what they said. The former case, there's an argument about bylaw infringement, but in the latter case, there's an argument about free speech. That needs to be tested, and how that's going to be tested goes to your question is, well, who made the decision and on what basis they made the decision to issue the ticket? Someone did. Was it a bylaw officer? Was it someone higher up in the political hierarchy? That question has to be answered.
Because, as you know, we at Montreal, we changed the party ruling. Now it's not anymore Valérie Plante, but if it's the case, they will need to come back and testify in front of the justice.
The lawyers are fairly free to subpoena witnesses that are relevant to the legal issues. So that's certainly something that TDF lawyers will be thinking about.
Do you know when is the next hearing in court?
No, we don't have the date yet, I don't believe, or at least I haven't heard.
I think this is going to maybe set the precedent for religious freedom and freedom of expression in a place of worship, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And you can see how this case has application to other jurisdictions, not just the city of Montreal. If it's found that the city can fine or prohibit worship whenever there's some sort of musical performance in a place of worship, that's going to, we say, massively infringe the rights to freedom of worship and expression for religious people and others across Canada. So that's why we've stepped in. And that's why we're going to fight this case. If
people want to support this specific case, is there a way for the people to make a donation? Yeah, we're a charitable nonprofit organization, and you can find us at democracyfund.ca or TDF_can on Twitter X. If you want to support the work we do, we don't take government funds, so obviously we have to take cases that we think are important for civil liberties, and if our donors like it, they can find us there and help out. It's not just TDF that's weighing in here. Other church religious organizations have sought and received permission to intervene here, so they obviously feel that this is an important case for freedom of speech and freedom of religion in Canada. I think it's the first time that we are seeing a city trying to not only stop an event, but interfere and fine a place of worship. You could be right. Yeah, I'm not aware, at least recently, of cities acting this way, although there's other levels of government that have tried to interfere with what we say is, basic free speech rights.
at city councils or school boards. So we are seeing a rise in censorship cases across Canada, unfortunately, but this is where we're fighting.
I recall that the city of Montreal actually didn't do anything when they were supposed to have an imam coming in Montreal who literally stated some outrageous thing about homosexual or about women. And the city literally did nothing to prevent that event to happen. Obviously, this person had been blocked at the border. It was not allowed to enter the country. But in this case, the city didn't try to interfere in that event that was supposed to happen in a mosque.
Well, the problem with censorship laws and their application is they're open to accusations of double standards, because when they're applied, there's always a political component to that application. So I don't know about that case, but every identity group, if they get censored, they're going to point to other identity groups to say, well, they weren't censored and we are. So clearly there's a bias and a double standard. And that affects the appearance of the administration of justice. So justice has to be done. It has to be seen to be done. And if it's not seen to be done, then people get rightfully, I think, justifiably angry. And that's the problem with the implementation of these censorship laws, among many others.
Mark Joseph, thank you very much for the update.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for watching. I hope you appreciate this report. At Rebel News, we started a petition at letusworship.ca. On this website, you have a petition because we need to send a message to our government, and not just the government at the federal level, but for the municipality and the provincial level, that no one can interfere with freedom of religion here in Canada. So go and sign the petition at letusworship.ca.